It's our time. It's time to make it happen. I need you. I need the person next to you. I need that connection. I want you to play every single ball with us. Every pass, every tackle, every run, every decision. You need to leave the energy of that stadium and the people next to you. I count on you. Let's make it happen.
Arsenal's journey over the past 6 years has been a story of reconstruction, of a club rediscovering its purpose after years of decline. When Mikel Arteta took charge in late 2019, Arsenal were fragile, uncertain, and adrift from their identity. Few believed that a young, untested coach could restore the standards of one of England's greatest institutions.
Bringing light to the club is just beautiful, because I can see the people coming to watch us and the people working for the club that they really enjoy it.
Yet season by season, through clear vision and relentless discipline, Arteta transformed the team's mentality, tactics, and culture.
The culture and the values that we represent. And for me, there are three main ones. One is respect, the other one is commitment, and the other is passion.
What followed was not an overnight rise, but a methodical evolution that rebuilt Arsenal from the ground up, turning instability into structure and doubt into belief.
I know how a winning culture should look like, which is for me the most important thing. You need a direction, you need a vision, and you need action. You have to be ruthless, believe on that, and go.
When Mikel Arteta returned to Arsenal in December 2019, the club was drifting. The Emirates Stadium, once a symbol of elegant football, had fallen silent under the weight of mediocrity. The final months of Unai Emery's tenure had produced confusion and poor results. Performances lacked purpose, supporters were restless, and a team that once defined attacking brilliance was now struggling for identity. Arsenal sat in mid-table, closer to relegation than to the Champions League. Arteta's appointment looked like a gamble. He had never managed before. What he brought was a deep knowledge of Arsenal's culture, 3 years beside Pep Guardiola learning modern football, and a belief that discipline and clarity could repair what emotion alone could not. He spoke of standards, values, and togetherness, insisting that success would come only when the club rediscovered unity between players, staff, and supporters. From his first weeks, the changes were visible. Arsenal became compact out of possession, more deliberate with the ball. It was not expansive football, but it was coherent. In the 2019-20 FA Cup, his methods delivered proof. Arsenal beat Manchester City in a disciplined semi-final, and then Chelsea in the final. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang scored twice, and Arteta lifted his first trophy only 8 months after taking the job. The win mattered less for the silverware than for what it symbolized: a clear direction after years of drift. The remainder of that pandemic-disrupted season ended with Arsenal 8th in the league, but the mood had changed. Training intensity improved, communication between players sharpened, and the team began to defend collectively. Arteta had established authority. It was now his club to shape. The 2020-21 season tested the new structure immediately. Arsenal began positively, winning the Community Shield and their opening league fixtures. Yet by winter, they had collapsed into a long winless run. Goals were rare, confidence evaporated, and the manager's commitment to a rigid 3-4-3 was being questioned. The pressure reached its peak when Arsenal fell to 15th place before Christmas. Arteta responded not by abandoning his principles, but by adapting them. He introduced Bukayo Saka, Smith Rowe, and Gabriel Martinelli as regular starters, shifting to a 4-2-3-1 built on energy and fluidity. On Boxing Day 2020, Arsenal defeated Chelsea 3-1, a match remembered as the true beginning of the rebuild. From that point forward, the team played with freedom. Smith Rowe operated as the link between midfield and attack. Saka became the creative engine on the right, and Arsenal rose back toward mid-table stability. Despite missing out on European qualification, finishing 8th again, the transformation beneath the results was crucial. Arteta had proven his willingness to trust youth and to evolve tactically. The defense conceded only 39 league goals, one of the best records that year, and a new identity began to form, organized, hardworking, and grounded in collective responsibility. The internal culture also shifted. Arteta was uncompromising about standards. Senior players unwilling to match the required professionalism, Mesut Ozil, Shkodran Mustafi, and later Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang were moved on. It was painful, but necessary. The message was consistent. No individual stood above the project. By the summer of 2021, Arsenal's hierarchy understood that this was a long-term rebuild. They backed their manager with heavy investment in young signings: Ben White, Aaron Ramsdale, Takehiro Tomiyasu, and Martin Odegaard on a permanent deal. Each was under 24 years old, chosen for character as much as ability. The new season, 2021-22 began in disaster. 3 straight defeats left Arsenal bottom of the league without a goal scored. Pundits predicted Arteta's dismissal, yet within weeks the narrative flipped. Once the new signing settled, performances improved dramatically. Ramsdale's authority in goal, Tomiyasu's balance at right back, and White's distribution created a modern defensive base. The North London Derby in September 2021 became the symbolic turning point. Arsenal beat Tottenham 3-1 in front of a roaring Emirates. It felt like the club's pulse had returned. The young core carried the side through the rest of the campaign. Odegaard orchestrated attacks with calm precision. Saka and Smith Rowe reached double figures in goals. Gabriel Magalhaes matured into a reliable center-back partner for White. Although Arsenal narrowly missed Champions League qualification, finishing 5th after late defeats to Tottenham and Newcastle, their 69 points marked clear progress. For the first time in years, supporters could see a coherent blueprint. The football was aggressive but controlled, built around pressing, positional structure, and technical midfielders. More importantly, the connection between players and fans had been rebuilt. The Emirates had become loud again, filled with optimism rather than frustration. The 2022-23 season was the moment Arsenal's project turned from promise into contention. After consecutive 5th and 8th place finishes, expectations were modest. But Arteta and sporting director Edu targeted players who could transform the side from developing to dominant. Gabriel Jesus and Alexander Zinchenko arrived from Manchester City, bringing experience of elite competition and familiarity with Arteta's methods. William Saliba returned from his loan in France and immediately looked world-class. From the first week, everything clicked. Arsenal won their opening 5 matches, and by October sat top of the Premier League. The football combined intensity with precision. Jesus is pressing from the front, Zinchenko stepping into midfield to create overloads, Granit Xhaka reinvented as an advanced midfielder, and Odegaard directing play. By mid-season, Arsenal had collected 50 points from 19 games, a record pace that revived memories of the club's glory years. Even setbacks showed growth. When Manchester City defeated them at the Emirates in February, Arsenal responded with resilience, producing late winners against Aston Villa and Bournemouth. Reiss Nelson's 97th-minute strike in that Bournemouth game became an emblem of belief, though a late-season injury to Saliba and draws in April cost them the title. Arsenal still finished second with 84 points, their highest total in more than a decade. Beyond the numbers, Arteta had reshaped Arsenal's tactical DNA. The team pressed high yet controlled possession, alternating between 2-3-5 and 3-2-5 shapes in attack. Fullbacks inverted, midfielders rotated, and every player understood spacing. Defensively, they conceded only 43 goals, while Saka, Odegaard, and Martinelli all scored double figures. Arsenal were no longer a team chasing relevance. They were competing toe-to-toe with one of the best Manchester City sides in history. That season also demonstrated Arteta's attention to marginal gains. Working with set-piece specialist Nicolas Jover, Arsenal became lethal from corners and free kicks. They recorded one of the league's highest tallies of goals from dead ball situations. These details, invisible to outsiders, reflected the analytical culture Arteta had built. Training sessions were designed around intensity and repetition. Video analysis became central to preparation. The following summer confirmed that Arsenal were serious about reaching the next level. Declan Rice joined from West Ham United for a club record fee, bringing leadership and defensive authority to midfield. Kai Havertz arrived from Chelsea to add versatility, while Jurrien Timber strengthened the defense. Each addition addressed a specific tactical need rather than reputation. By the 2023-24 campaign, Arsenal had matured into one of Europe's most balanced teams. Their press was synchronized, their transitions sharper, and their set-piece efficiency unmatched. They scored 91 league goals and conceded just 29, the fewest in 20 years. David Raya established himself as the league's most reliable goalkeeper, winning the Golden Glove with 18 clean sheets. Rice integrated seamlessly, controlling midfield tempo and covering defensive transitions that had troubled previous Arsenal sides. Odegaard, now captain, contributed 11 goals and 11 assists, embodying the manager's philosophy of intelligence and work rate. Although Manchester City edged the title again by 2 points, Arsenal's 89-point total equaled near invincible levels from the early 2000s. They also reached the Champions League quarter-finals, their deepest run in more than a decade. Under Arteta, the club had progressed from mid-table disarray to consistent contention at home and abroad. Arteta's methodology was evident in every phase. Identify weakness, solve it, then raise the standard again. After securing defensive solidity, He focused on chance creation and variety in attack. Arsenal developed multiple scoring patterns, vertical through balls from deep wide overloads leading to cutbacks, and carefully choreographed corner routines. By 2024, they could adapt to any opponent's approach. By the start of the 2024-25 season, Arsenal's ambition had become clear. The foundations were solid, the tactical framework proven, and the squad deeper than at any point since the early 2000s. Yet the expectations had also changed. Finishing second was no longer viewed as progress, it was viewed as unfinished business. Arteta and the club approached the new campaign with one message: consistency and ruthlessness would decide whether Arsenal's project could finally deliver silverware. Arsenal's recruitment remained precise. Rather than overhauling the squad, the additions were strategic. Midfielder Mikel Arteta joined from Real Sociedad, bringing composure and physical control. Defender Riccardo Calafiori added flexibility in the back line, capable of operating as a center-back or inverted fullback. These signings reflected Arteta's desire for tactical adaptability rather than headline names. The early signs were encouraging. Arsenal began the season by winning the Emirates Cup and carried that rhythm into the league. The structure that had taken years to perfect was now instinctive. In possession, Calafiori and Timber formed a fluid back three. Rice anchored midfield, and Odegaard dictated tempo with characteristic precision. Ahead of them, Havertz found rhythm as a false nine, linking play and arriving late in the box. Arsenal's balance between control and explosiveness defined their season. They pressed high when possible, but were equally comfortable managing tempo in deeper phases. The team conceded only 34 league goals and remained the Premier League's best defensive unit for a third consecutive year. Arsenal also made a significant impact in Europe, reaching the Champions League semi-finals after eliminating Real Madrid with a 3-0 home win that displayed their growing authority on the continental stage. Emerging talents highlighted the depth of the system. 16-year-old Ethan Nwaneri became the youngest Arsenal player to score in multiple competitions. These breakthroughs reflected Arteta's trust in youth and the academy culture he had rebuilt. The message to every player was the same: performance determines opportunity. Arsenal ended the season as runners-up again, both domestically and in Europe, but by the narrowest of margins. They had evolved from contenders into a team that consistently set the standard for intensity, structure, and resilience. For a club once accused of fragility, that transformation represented a fundamental cultural shift. The 2025 campaign arrived with even greater urgency. 3 consecutive second-place finishes had created a sense of unfinished purpose. Arteta approached the summer transfer window with the same analytical clarity that had defined his tenure. The club invested heavily once more, strengthening the spine with a new goalkeeper, Kepa Arrizabalaga, to compete for the #1 role, and 2 central midfielders, Martin Zubimendi from Real Sociedad and Christian Norgard from Brentford, to provide both control and depth. This investment underlined a key evolution in Arsenal's identity. They were now an elite organization capable of sustaining competition across multiple fronts. Arteta's system, refined over 6 seasons, revolved around positional discipline. The team's typical build-up featured 3 defenders forming the first line, with Rice and Zubimendi as dual pivots, allowing Odegaard and Havertz to rotate freely between half spaces. The wide forwards, Saka and Martinelli, stretched the field, creating corridors for interior runs. The precision of this structure made Arsenal one of the most tactically advanced teams in Europe. Their attacking play combined calculated possession with vertical speed. Calafiori often stepped into midfield, creating overloads that unbalanced pressing systems. The 3-1-2 build-up pattern allowed Arsenal to progress play through multiple routes, reducing predictability. Set-piece efficiency remained a defining feature. Under Nicolas Jover, Arsenal had become the benchmark for pre-planned routines. From 2023 to 2025, they scored more goals from corners and indirect free kicks than any other top-flight side. These rehearsed scenarios were not only about scoring, but also maintaining territorial pressure. Every detail, blocking runs, decoy movements, aerial mismatches, was calibrated. Statistically, the 2024-25 Arsenal side ranked among the best in Europe in chance creation, pressing recoveries, and defensive transitions. Declan Rice maintained the highest ball recovery rate in the league. Odegaard led in chances created. Saka became the first Arsenal player to record double figures for both goals and assists in consecutive seasons since Thierry Henry. In the Champions League, Arsenal reached the final stages, playing with maturity rarely seen from such a young side. They combined composure under pressure with tactical flexibility, switching between 4-3-3 and 3-2-5 systems depending on opposition pressing structures. Their victory over Real Madrid in the quarterfinal second leg was a tactical masterpiece, compact out of possession, ruthless in transition, and guided by precise vertical passing from Rice and Odegaard. Although Arsenal once again finished as Premier League runners-up, the margins separating them from the title were measured in details rather than deficiencies. Arteta's project had reached a level where each season was defined by moments rather than gaps in quality. By 2025, Mikel Arteta's transformation of Arsenal was widely recognized as one of the most comprehensive rebuilds into modern football. When he arrived, the club was fractured, both structurally and emotionally. 6 years later, Arsenal stood as a model of long-term planning, tactical innovation, and player development. The process had been built on clear phases. The first restored standards and discipline. The second reintroduced identity through youth and structure. The third established Arsenal as a competitive force capable of challenging Europe's elite. Every phase was interconnected, each year building on the lessons of the last. Arteta's approach combined elements learned from Pep Guardiola with his own emphasis on culture and psychology. He often described football as a reflection of behavior, how players train, communicate, and respond to setbacks. Arsenal's environment under him became defined by accountability. Every detail, from recovery protocols to on-field positioning, was monitored. Training sessions were structured to replicate game intensity, and the tactical meetings emphasized autonomy. Players were expected to understand not just what to do, but why. The results extended beyond trophies. Arsenal became a reference point for sustainable squad building. Their recruitment strategy focused on age profile, adaptability, and mentality, rather than short-term reputation. Nearly every signing between 2020 and 2025 fit this model, creating a team whose average age remained among the youngest in the Premier League, even as it competed for titles. Culturally, Arteta reconnected Arsenal to its traditional values of respect, commitment, and passion, principles that had defined the club since its earliest days. The once fractured relationship between supporters and players turned into one of mutual belief. Home games at the Emirates regained the energy that had been missing for more than a decade. Tactically, Arsenal's evolution was equally striking. Under Arteta, the team could dominate possession or play compactly on the counter. They could attack through wide overloads or central combinations. Their defensive organization, once a chronic weakness, became the strongest in England for 3 straight seasons. Goalkeepers were expected to participate in build-up, center-backs in progression, and midfielders in pressing triggers. It was a system that demanded intelligence, but rewarded cohesion. By the close of the 2024-25 season, Arsenal had achieved consecutive 80-plus point tallies, a Champions League semi-final, and the league's best defensive record. Even without the Premier League title, the broader transformation was undeniable. Arteta had changed the trajectory of the club, restoring it to the European elite, while maintaining long-term stability. The story of his Arsenal tenure was one of persistence and evolution. Every setback, whether the early struggles of 2020, the narrow miss of 2022, or the heartbreaks of near-title seasons, became a step in refinement. Arteta never deviated from his conviction that success required culture before trophies. That belief, once met with skepticism, had become the foundation of Arsenal's resurgence. The legacy of these years extended beyond results. Arsenal's playing identity was once again recognizable, technically skilled, structurally disciplined, and emotionally unified. The club that had once lost its sense of purpose had regained it under a manager who understood its history and demanded a future worthy of it. As the 2025-26 season approached, Arsenal were no longer defined by potential but by expectation. Mikel Arteta had built a side capable of challenging anyone in Europe, sustained by a culture of relentless improvement. From a rookie manager stepping into crisis to the architect of one of the continent's most admired teams, his journey had reshaped not only Arsenal's fortunes, but the standards by which modern football projects would be judged. 6 years after his arrival, Mikel Arteta's influence on Arsenal extended far beyond league tables or trophies. He had reconstructed an institution that had lost direction, redefined its footballing principles, and built a foundation strong enough to sustain long-term success. The Arsenal of 2025 played with control, intelligence, and conviction, traits that reflected their manager's own personality. What began as a period of uncertainty became a model of modern football management, driven by culture, structure, and attention to detail. Arteta turned potential into performance and restored the unity between the club, its players, and its supporters. Whether measured by numbers, style, or belief, Arsenal were once again recognized among Europe's elite. The project was still evolving, but its legacy was already clear. Mikel Arteta had not only changed Arsenal's results, he had changed what Arsenal meant.